What's up guys, and do you know what time it is? Finally! I am bringing you guys bass related content on the channel. I've been waiting so long for this. It's been about 2 months ago since I filmed this content, but my mic equipment broke and it's just been a nightmare trying to get stuff working for YouTube again. So finally, we're back on track. You guys have been asking for bass related content, specifically demonstrating how the Kemper profiling amplifier works with bass guitar. Some of you guys will be aware that I've played bass in the past and I used the Kemper on a tour in the past, but I took things one step further because I want to start bringing other collaborations into this channel. So one of my best friends, an incredible bass player, a guy called Matthew Seal, I travelled to his house, sat down with him and said to him, here's my Kemper, here's all the profiles on it, I want you to go through it, find what you really like, and play a piece for me, and then we're going to sit down and talk about how you achieved the tone, how you went about playing the piece, and how you go about working as a professional bass player in general. So the piece you're about to see right now, or the song should I say, you're about to hear and see him play, is a song called Your Fool by one of our favourite artists, an artist that we work with called Oscar Corney. In the description below you'll find the original music video, but until then, enjoy the performance and enjoy the interview with Matthew.
Step up and make somebody notice you. Just find another way to collide. You don't need to change your life with someone. Come get yourself on this ride. With all that I gave to you, and all that I had to lose, I keep asking why. Tell her that I just don't feel anymore. I can't find the love inside of me. Maybe I won't go back anymore to being just another one of your moves. Is it time to start meeting better people? I won't impress you with a lie. Step out the crowd and make someone proud to be yours tonight. I need to feel safe, I won't get hurt. Just smile and let the sun shine. With all that I gave to you, and all that I have to lose, I keep asking why. Tell her that I just don't feel anymore. I can't find the love inside of me. Maybe I won't go back anymore to being just another one of your moves. Is this you? Is this me? Time and time again we cause a big scene. Oh, 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 oh. Greatest time to let the good times roll. Just let it roll. Tell her that I just don't feel anymore. I can't find the love inside of me. Maybe I won't go back anymore to being just another one of your moves.
Hey guys, I hope you're all doing really well. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough that we just went through. Here I've got one of my best friends. He's an incredible bass player. We're going to have a little bit of a talk about gear and about how he set up the tones on the Kemper for the playthrough for you. So the first track was a track called You're Fool,
Yep.
which is by an artist called Oscar Corney, who we both had the privilege of recording with and playing with a number of times now.
Fantastic guy.
So first and foremost, my question would be, how did you set up the tone for that track in the playthrough?
Okay, so using the Kemper profiler, I used something I'm quite used to is the Tech 21 bass driver, which I've used quite a few times before in performances. So kind of flicking through the profiles, I saw Black Magic, which uses a Tech 21, but it's not as hard driven as some of the kind of the Sans amp tones of a Tech 21. So kind of boosting quite a bit of bass and low mids, not worrying too much about the high mids, and cutting a bit of treble and presence. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of string clank and anything like that. So getting rid of just a little bit of treble always helps with that, I think. And if you have new strings, taking off the treble won't cut away that brightness.
Brightness that's already on the strings in the first
Exactly,
place.
exactly. So it's almost just kind of battling it out. It's just kind of taming those strings just a little bit. So yeah, I used the Black Magic profile on the Kemper. It just had this. Normally I use this very just warm tone. I normally use Mark bass.
Cool.
So I'll plug directly in. Bass is always boosted. Low mids are always boosted. High mids and treble cut just the tiniest bit. That's about it. So I tried to find something that was as close to that as possible. So there we go.
And that's very reminiscent of what you use live with Oscar as well, I take it.
Oh, definitely, definitely. The only thing I'd probably change the slightest bit is actually when I play live with Oscar, I still cut the high mids a little bit, but I have the treble set flat.
Okay.
Because then I can worry more about it on the bass. On this time,
yeah.
I didn't even touch the EQ on the bass. I have like a big three-band EQ on my bass guitar.
Overalls, yeah.
So normally on live playing, I'd set everything quite flat on the amp, apart from a bit of bass and a bit of low mid boosted, and then just worry about it on the bass.
It gives you the versatility and the control actually with
Exactly.
the preamp in the bass.
Well, it's the difference between, for example, You're Fool, I want a punchier and lower bass sound. I want something that is very thick and very warm at the bottom, but then in the later on I have that slap section. I want that tiny bit.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Yeah,
I want that tiny bit. So when I pop and slap, you're hearing that extra definition, you know?
Cool, because it's quite a funky track. So initially, throughout the whole thing, you want something that's got a bit of girth to it, something that's got a bit of personality.
Exactly.
But at the end of the outro, when you actually do something, you want a bit of presence. So at least it's
You do. You do. You really do. Otherwise, you're going to have something that... It's hard because when you go in to do like recordings, sometimes you'll record one track and you go, right, so now you're doing something like slapping.
Yeah.
You're going to go into a completely another ball game of tones, EQing and this and that. So you think, right, I need a tone for what we're doing now and for what we're playing for Oscar live, especially. A tone that will be able to fit both...
both styles.
Both styles, exactly.
Yeah.
To be able to play fingerstyle and get that warm thickness of the tone, and then be able to play slap and still get enough tone, enough bass frequency to actually punch through. Because when you're slapping, you're losing so much bass frequency.
Yeah. I guess because the attack's different. It's a different type of attack rather than being sitting finger. It's very like...
It's more percussive, so the attack, I mean, if you were to look at a fingerstyle note, as soon as you hit, it's just going to go boom and very slowly go down. But with a slap note, the attack peaks straight away and it goes down quite quickly and then it smooths out. So you need that kind of versatile tone to be able to go, right, I'm not going to scoop my mids here and boost the bass and the treble for the slap section. And then for the other section, I'm going to cut the treble and boost the bass, boost the low mids. It just wouldn't work. You have to have a tone that's a bit versatile.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the Tech 21 really helped me on that one.
Sweet, man. Do you tend to use compressors like when you're live, or I guess is it a playing thing to actually embed it in your technique? I think it normally is, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, really. Personally, I don't use. I try to stay away from pedals. Weirdly enough, pedals, rack mount units, anything. I try to keep it as simple as possible. Even though I have like 3 different types of EQs, I have the one on the amp, the one on the bass, and sometimes also the one on my DI. I use a Dark Glass Vintage Deluxe, which is my DI signal normally, unless I'm going straight through the amp or anything like that. But I try to keep everything as simple as possible. So no drives, no compressors, no any effects or anything of that.
That's cool. It's almost like an old school way of playing, because I think the thing that is the biggest misconception with musicians, and a little bit ironic being someone that demonstrates gear and talks about it, is being that first and foremost, it really is the playing. It's the way you approach the instrument that has the biggest effect on the tone.
Well, it's a very weird one. I'm very torn on this subject, but when people say it's all in the fingers, and I go, yeah, it is all in the fingers, but the difference between, for example, in your case as a guitarist, if you're playing the exact same riff the exact same way, using the difference between a Les Paul with some let's say a Les Paul with some EMGs in it, EMG humbuckers, to a very vintage Telly, and you can play the exact same riff in the exact same way, sure, but it's all in the fingers. Of course it's going to sound different. Gear does matter. And as someone who is very, very into their gear, I love gear, which is sadly my wallet does not. But for someone who loves that much gear, I'm not a big fan of pedals.
Okay.
I don't know why. So when it comes to the compression thing, as you said, I believe I'll try to have all my dynamics kind of all by my fingers. I'm quite a light player in the first case, so low action, light playing, turn the gain up on the amp, and that kind of sits about wherever I want it. But if I need that extra oomph, I can always play harder.
Yeah.
I can always play.
The
The problem you find is what most people use compressors for is as soon as you start slapping, then wham, it's way too loud.
Yeah, of course.
Which is a problem is a
consideration.
problem I face since I don't use a compressor. So I've just had to kind of modify my technique that even my slap style is quite soft.
Yeah.
I try to keep the technique as tight as possible, but trying to keep actually slapping to a soft extent is not an easy thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, and obviously it'd sound better if I was truly giving it a wallop, but
Yeah.
But it's like you've got to adapt. I mean, we've both been somewhere, we've both been trained as musicians, so it's like you've got to adapt your technique and be versatile, especially to the song genre and to the musicians that you're around,
of course.
So, I mean, there's been countless times where, in the past, where I've stepped on off of my tube screamer and it's been too loud and poor Oscar's gone, oh my God, and it's taken his face off in front of his monitor. So of course you want to adapt your playing, knowing that if something is going to happen, you can recover from that moment.
You can pull back from it.
Playing.
Exactly.
I'm a huge advocate as a guitar player, and someone got in touch with me, emailed me earlier, saying how they didn't consider using the volume pot. They just turn it up all the way, and that's just how it goes for them. And I said how the volume pot for me is just like an extra thing for me to create tone by taking the volume down and how the amplifier actually reacts to it.
I love that idea of personally as a bass player, most things that I use these days, unless you want to go, right, I'm going to use a tube, I'm going to use like a tube rig, you're going to, you're about to break your back unless you're a bodybuilder. So everything is just solid state because it's so much easier, and especially these days, everything's getting into lighter Class D amplifiers. The lighter you go, the smaller you go. Oh, you can chuck this in a gig bag. Cool, I'll buy it.
That's why I got the Kemper, because
exactly.
it's versatility and it's
exactly
the ability to take it anywhere.
So I loved the idea when I first heard. I didn't really understand the whole thing of a volume pot when I was younger. Of course, you kind of just you go, right, I'll turn it up to full, and that's what I need. Sure. And then if I want it quieter, I'll play softer. And as a bass player, that's something I continually find.